Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to another episode of Media Fame TV, where we cover the alternative viewpoints in the entertainment industry as well as society. New title, right? What I decided to do with Media Fame TV is you're still going to get those exclusive entertainment news stories, but also I felt that society is also important and it plays a huge role in the contribution of how the entertainment industry works. And this story is very unique in the sense that today we're going to be talking all about aviation. For the people who are not familiar with the term aviation, it is referring to anything revolving around the plane industry. And Michel from JustPlanes.com, I highly recommend that you check out his YouTube channel. It has received over 3 million views and counting. He was a pleasure to talk to and very knowledgeable about aviation and the different types of planes that are out there. JustPlanes.com has a documented series about different types of aviation crews and their planes and the technology of how they work all over the world. And it was so fascinating, and I grew. And even myself, because of the issues that have been revolving around 9/11 and of course the terrorist fear that has been going on forever, it kind of made me afraid to get on an airplane. But from talking to Michelle and learning more about JustPlanes.com, it's kind of helping me to be able to get on an aircraft someday and to experience how that uplifting feeling, that pride of being in the air. So without further ado, here is my interview with Michelle from JustPlanes.com. Michelle, I just want to tell you thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview today, regardless of all the craziness that's been going on.
Yeah, that's my pleasure.
Yeah, so what made you want to start getting interested in aviation and to start JustPlanes.com?
Well, I was interested in airplanes from a very young age, and when I turned 18, I became a flight attendant. So I flew all over the world, and then after a few years of flying, I continued working for the airlines on the ground. So I was always involved in planes. And then one day while working for the airline, I decided to pick up a camera and start videotaping. And that was in 1990. And, one thing led to another. I made my first program and started selling videos, and it actually sold. So I started making more programs, and it continued to grow, and initially it was like making copies of the videos myself, and then there were too much demand, had to start getting a duplicator to do this, and we started printing sleeves and labels, and now we're 20 or 23 years later, and we produce Blu-rays. We stopped the DVDs, now it's all Blu-rays. They're sold in more than 75 countries around the world. They're also available on download now, so people can download them anywhere. And then we have the YouTube channel, which is the #1 most popular aviation channel on YouTube, with more than 3 million views a month, which is pretty incredible, I think. And it's been fun.
Yeah, I was so impressed watching these videos because, like, for me, the interesting thing for me is that I have never been on an airplane, and this kind of because I think with all the things that have occurred with like 9/11 and a lot of the bombings and a lot of the world on terror and things like that, they kind of created a fear. But from watching these DVDs, now I feel more comfortable getting on an airplane.
Yeah, then, I get that often where people will get to watch the videos and see what the pilots do, how they do it, watch the pilots and hear them explain everything, and it puts them at ease. For example, a lot of people are nervous when there's turbulence on the airplane. But when they see what the pilots are doing during it, there's really nothing wrong with it, and it puts them at ease. And a lot of people that haven't flown or are afraid of flying get into them. Also, a lot of people that want to become pilots or that watch the videos and it helps them or motivates them to become pilots. It's also people that are interested in travel. You get to see a lot of places around the world and see it from a different angle. Like you're in the cockpit looking out and watching the approaches into some really cool places on the planet, which you don't get to see when you're sitting in the back of the plane. So there's that aspect as well. It's, as I said, it's fun and cool.
Yeah. So can you explain this process of how you determine, like, okay, this is the type of plane that we're going to cover, and then how do you take that and then translate all the footage into the finished product that you have on your website and that's featured on YouTube?
Yeah. Nowadays, we film, how do we pick an airline? Is that we talk to a lot of airlines. We try to pick airlines that are interesting in as far as what airplanes they fly, where they fly them, and we also try to cover the entire world. In other words, we don't want to be doing 10 programs in one country and then never go to another country. So we have been, as of today, let me tell you exactly, almost 900 cities on Earth and in 170 countries. So we've covered, pretty much all of North, South America, most of Africa, all of Europe, a good part of Asia and Australia, New Zealand, and then some like very unusual islands and countries in the world where most people will never go. Like we went to Bhutan in Asia. I think 99.99% of the people will never set foot there, but it's really nice. We also try to give some ground views. Like, for example, when we went to Bhutan, we took a tour on the ground, and we'll include a few minutes of video of that so you can get an idea of what the country looks like. Of course, the video is about aviation and airplanes, but whenever we get a chance, we'll include a few minutes of some other stuff as well. So then we talk to airlines all over the world, and the ones that are interested in what we do, we end up working with. The ones that don't, we don't work with them, but there's more than enough airlines to do more than enough stuff. We've filmed about 250 airlines so far, and we then send our crew there, and it depends. A long time ago, we started with a crew of 3, but because the cockpits are so small, we built our equipment in a way that we can actually film it with one person if we have to. So that person will do all the, all the videotaping and audio and everything. Nowadays, we film with up to 6 cameras at the same time. So we'll install 6 cameras in the cockpit. One is the big main camera that's held and handled by the cameraman. The other ones are attached and they're just doing their thing on their own. And then my job as the producer is to put the thing together once I get all the footage. And I mean, we're talking a lot of footage because we do anywhere from 4 to 15 flights with 6 cameras. So you're talking, if we do 10 flights and 6 cameras are recording, you're talking 60 files, so to say. And you pick all the best stuff and put it all together, and you try to give people as many views as you can from the pilots, from the cockpit, from the outside views, and you put it together in a program that is anywhere from 3 to 4 hours. We really want to give people as much as we can for their $20, $30. And as I said, it comes out on a Blu-ray now, so people can see it high definition, widescreen, great quality on their TV. Or if they don't care about the quality and they want to get it quickly, they can just download it and they can be watching it in a few minutes. But that's like DVD sort of quality. I mean, it's interesting to see all the different airlines, countries, and nationalities do their thing their way. It's very different whether you fly an airplane somewhere in the U.S. or whether you're flying it somewhere in South America or in Africa. I mean, they're like worlds of difference as far as what they do and how they do it. But of course, it's all flying. So the flying itself is really the same. You take off and you land. But besides that, it's really interesting to see all the difference. And then we also do, we do passenger planes. We also do cargo airplanes. So you'll go on a plane and see, the cargo that they carry, from cars to horses to whatever. We do them on land. We also do them in the water. We've done a number of airlines that take off and land in the water. So anything that flies, we cover. Whether it lands on a glacier, and on a mountain, or on a beach in the Maldives Islands, you name it.
Yeah, because it just, to me, it just blows my mind, not only the fact that technology can be used like that to, get it really close, and then I wanted to ask you, because I've always wondered this, because I know one of the fastest planes is called the Concorde. Is there anything currently now that's faster than that?
No, ever since Concorde stopped flying, they haven't really made any supersonic attempt again. I guess it was very expensive to operate, and as a result, the tickets were extremely expensive, and it really wasn't suited for too many people. They could only fly basically on flights from London and Paris to New York, and at some point Washington. But there really wasn't a market to mass produce them and operate them all over the world. I mean, as nice as Concorde was, and I think it was a beautiful airplane, I don't really think it made a lot of sense, because when you're flying, say, from New York to London, the flight's 5.5, 6 hours, and on Concorde it was maybe 3 hours. So is it really worth it to save 3 hours?
Right. That's exactly what I thought. I mean, personally, I would love to have one that I can just that supersonic speed is. Yeah,
I mean, it would be nice to say, hey, I need to go from New York to LA. Can I get there in 60 minutes?
Yeah,
that would be nice. But everything has become so fast these days that at some point you have to say, well, hey, it takes 5 or 6 hours to get to LA. That's how long it takes, and that's it. Finished.
Right. And, you had mentioned earlier on in the interview that you did stewardess-based work. And one thing that I've noticed is often there are more female-based stewardesses than male. Can you kind of explain your experience? I don't see a lot of them these days.
It really depends on where you go around the world. I think in a lot of countries it's even, or it doesn't really. You might be on one flight with 7 of one and 3 of the other, or 5 and 5. But then in some countries you might end up with all female flight attendants, and in other countries mostly male. I think there is no rule, I'd say.
And one thing too that I find interesting is, like, with the locations. Was there a place that said, no, we don't want you shooting here, or a place that was just very difficult to be in?
There's a lot of places where you're not supposed to film at the airport or around the airport, and that became worse after 9/11, because they don't want anybody filming or taking pictures at or around the airport. So when we do, we need to get special permission. If and when we can get it, sometimes we can't. It's really difficult, unfortunately. And airports don't want to understand the fact that we're doing this. It's a documentary, and we don't have any bad bad reasons to do it, but they in general aren't very cooperative.
Right.
And then the police also drives around the airport and sends everybody away. There are actually a few airports in the world that have been really smart about this, and they have set up groups of people who they call them airplane spotters, people who either watch airplanes or take pictures, and they have set them up in groups, and they actually will be allowed to sit around the airport and watch planes. And if they see anything that they think is a threat to security, they will notify the authorities. So they're actually making them work for them instead of against them. And I think that's awesome. But, that's only at a few airports, unfortunately. But I mean, a lot of people just like to stop and watch an airplane land and take off. That's something you don't have to be in aviation not to do that. I think it's pretty spectacular if a 747 flies right over your head and lands in front of you. I mean, anybody will stop and watch that. But nowadays, unfortunately, that's more difficult,
Right, and it's to me, it's really sad that 9/11 has kind of created this airplane hysteria, and then watching movies like Flight Plan and things like that. What advice would you give to people who want to pursue this? Because I know, number one, the amount of knowledge that's required to do this it takes a very smart person to kind of understand that. So what advice would you give?
You mean to people who want to become pilots?
Yeah, for people who want to become, it's a two-part question. For people who want to become pilots, and then for people who are probably interested in creating something similar to what you do, like a documentary.
For people who want to become pilots, I'd say you have to start with flight school and get somebody to train you on a small airplane and go up there and fly, and then eventually you can apply to the airlines. But you can either do it just for fun and rent a small plane and go fly, or if you want to do it to become a pilot, then you need to look up online and find where the programs are that you can join and start. I mean, I don't think so much in the U.S., but in other countries, there are actually airlines that will hire you and put you through their flight school. For example, in Europe, airlines, from the country, like the big airline from each country, used to at least hire people and send them to their own flight school and put them through the training, and then once they pass everything successfully, they can join the airline and become a pilot. But I think in the U.S. it's more like you have to get started on that yourself, and once you have a certain number of hours, you can maybe apply to airlines and get a job. And the other part of the question, can you repeat that?
Yes. It's for people who want to look at planes, or people who are into the documentative process of it. What advice or some tips or things that people should be aware of whether it be photographing airplanes or wanting to do like a video?
It's really difficult. If you're looking to make pictures of airplanes on the ground at the airport, there are some places that will be okay with that, and most places will not. As soon as somebody that works for security at the airport sees you with a camera, that it can be a problem. I really don't know. I know we run into problems with that, so I really don't have too much advice to give. I would say if you want to watch the airplanes, that might be a little bit easier. They're depending on the airport, you can go to the airport and be in a restaurant or a lounge and watch airplanes through the window sometimes. I know here at Logan Airport in Boston, there are a few places where you can watch the planes from. And I mean, if you're lucky and you can shoot some pictures or video, and people leave you alone, then good. But I really can't give much advice as far as that is concerned. It's, some countries are easier, some airports are easier. You might be able to find some info about that online if you go and Google, taking pictures at this or that airport. There are some groups of people that have put information on as far as what the locations are where you can do it. For example, like in Japan, I know you enter Tokyo, taking pictures of airplanes at Tokyo airport, something will come up with a map of locations where you can actually do it, and they'll let you do it. So that would actually be my best advice.
Right. And how can people get in touch with you if they want more information, or maybe they want to put in a request for a place they would like for you guys to go and shoot?
If you go to our websites, the main one is JustPlanes.com. That website will basically direct you into one or the other direction. The one is the cockpit videos, which are worldairroutes.com, and the other ones are airport videos where you'll actually see airplanes taking off and landing at a specific airport. Once you click on either of those websites, there is contact information on the website, and you can just click on there and send an email or fill out a form. So that would be the best way to contact us, I would say.
Fantastic. Thank you so much once again for talking with us today. And now, who knows, maybe I might get my plane license if I can get over my fear.
Yeah, and another thing that people who want to fly and don't actually want to get on a real airplane or don't have the money to get on a plane, there's some great flight sim programs that work on your computer, and they are as realistic as you can imagine. You go to the computer store, you buy the program, which might be $30, $40, $50. You install it on your computer, and you can fly anywhere around the world on almost any kind of airplane, and everything is very realistic. I mean, you have to get to the right speed to lift off. You have to set your flaps properly, etc. It goes to being as realistic as the actual weather. You can hook up to the weather, and you will be landing in London with the actual weather it is right now. So it's unbelievable. And the flight sim people are a huge part of our customers. They'll buy our cockpit videos and see how it's done, and then they'll do it on their computer. If we fly from Paris to New York on a 747, then they can go and reproduce that flight on their flight sim program and do the exact same thing. So that's another thing, that you can fly very cheaply and very easily on your computer.
Yes. So before you go, are there any things you want people to know about upcoming DVDs or things that are happening with JustPlanes.com?
Well, we just released a little bit ago a program on the newest airplane that's flying around, which is the Boeing 787. It's called the Dreamliner, and it's been in the news quite a lot because they've had some problems with the airplane, and it actually was out of service for a few months. It's now back into service. So that's one of our latest programs, and there's always new stuff coming out. We're all over the world filming. Right now we're filming in Brazil, in Mexico. We'll be in Europe next week. So there's always new stuff coming out.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely buy a couple and watch it and just be fascinated that there are people who have guts to do this.
Yeah, and definitely visit the YouTube channel. We actually load a new video on YouTube every single day. There's just about 700 videos on there. Wow. And every day we put a new video on there. And, I mean, if you haven't seen the channel yet, you could be on there for a week and watch new stuff nonstop. There's so much stuff on there. Yeah,
there is so much. I barely got through the catalog.
Yeah. No, there's probably, you could be on there for a week and be watching new stuff continuously, and if you, of course, I would encourage you to buy a DVD or a Blu-ray, but if you don't want that, there's plenty to watch on the YouTube channel, and you can select, what part of the world you want to see something from, and what kind of plane, what airline, what airport, etc. And you can watch some of the videos and get an idea, and that's free, of course.
Yeah, that's so cool. Thank you, Michel, so much for your time.
You're very welcome. It was nice talking to you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, and I definitely would love to have you come back on the show again.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Once again, I would like to thank Michel for the lovely interview. You can find out more about the Just Planes series at justplanes.com. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. Please check out their YouTube channel. They pretty much are like uploading stuff on the daily, and it's just amazing. And just watching how those planes like lift off and land is incredible. The interviews, and it's a very unique documentive process that they take to the Just Planes series. So youtube.com/justplanes. And I have an update for you guys before we end today's episode. I have been super busy between both my personal channel, Malaysian Quita, as well as Media Fame TV. The schedule for uploading will change. So for Media Fame TV, it will be uploaded on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, as well as adjunct to my personal channel, which you can check out at youtube.com/Malaysian Quita. I am your host, Malaysian Quita, and remember, it is our world and our wolves.